Hey everyone, welcome to my new Pokemon challenge. Can you beat Pokemon Red without healing? My last challenge, Can you beat Pokemon Red with a single Weedle, finished last week, and I want to thank everyone who checked it out, and if you haven't, you totally should. If you're into this type of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well, because there's a ton more on the way. These videos take a ton of time and effort, and I would love to be monetized, so any support helps. And now that I'm done begging for your support, we need to go over the rules for this challenge, as I've added a couple that will make it even more difficult. The first rule, and most obvious, is no healing. This means I can't use the Pokemon Center, healing items, or healing moves. There are 2 points in this game where healing is unskippable, but we're going to cross those bridges when we get there. The next rule is no power point restoring items. In my opinion, this is sort of a form of healing and would allow me to grind Pokemon a little bit more and is just outside of the spirit of the run. And to add just a little more challenge, I will not be allowed to use Legendaries. Legendary Pokemon like Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres would make the end of the game quite a bit easier, so to add some extra challenge, they're not going to be allowed. I also won't be using X items. I want this challenge to be about the Pokemon available in each area and on how we can beat the game as creatively as possible. And with all the boring stuff out of the way, let's start the challenge. We are immediately facing a huge decision, and that's which starter we're going to use. Our first big challenge is going to be Brock, and not only do we need to beat him, but we need to beat him with taking as little damage as possible, and without grinding excessively. Charmander is an awful matchup against Brock, as I'm sure many of you found out 20 years ago. Charmander would have to be far too overleveled to beat Brock, and remember, we have no way of restoring power points, so grinding Charmander is just simply not an option. Bulbasaur and Squirtle both have super effective moves against Brock's Rock-type Pokemon. However, Bulbasaur learns Leech Seed at level 7, which would be a fantastic move to use, but Leech Seed also heals Bulbasaur, which is against the rules. So we would have to level up to level 13 to learn Vine Whip to beat Brock, and this situation right here is why the no healing move rule came into existence. When I was doing test playthroughs, it's just far too easy to use healing moves to heal up your Pokemon, and it would become the win condition for the entire run, and using healing to beat a no healing challenge doesn't really make sense. So through the process of elimination, we're going to use Squirtle as our starter. Squirtle learns Bubble at level 8, which is also super effective against Brock and requires far less grinding. So now that we've decided on a starter, it's time for the first battle, which is against our rival. And we're gonna have to do this whole battle without taking hits, right? We wouldn't want to start the game by already having a weak Pokemon. Well, luckily we don't have to do that. After we win this battle, the game doesn't really tell you, but it heals your Pokemon after the fight, which is super nice for this run since it would take forever to get a version of this fight without any damage. At this point, we can skip ahead to Viridian Forest, which is where our first challenge awaits. One of the first trainer battles in Viridian Forest is a bug catcher with a level 6 Weedle, and there's a couple issues we have to find a solution for. The first problem is winning this battle without taking damage, and the second is not getting poisoned. You can see how this fight turns out in our current state. Yes, we can technically win the fight, but we have 2 HP, 4 HP after leveling up, and we're poisoned. So we'd only last about 16 steps before the poison damage causes us to faint, and then we would be forced to heal at a Poké Center and fail the run. So we need to catch more Pokemon, but there's not a whole lot available to us right now. Since we know we have Weedle fights coming up, we want a Pokemon that's resistant to poison. We also want Pokemon that can soften up the enemy's Pokemon so Squirtle can knock it out without using too many power points or taking hits. We could obviously catch Weedle, but those aren't very hardy, and although they could work, we're gonna go with Nidoran. In this case, we want male Nidoran because they know Leer, which lowers the enemy's defense, so we can soften up the enemy Pokemon for an easy Squirtle one-shot. So we're gonna go just west of Viridian City and catch not 1, but 5 Nidoran. And because nothing is gonna be simple in this run, remember that we probably shouldn't hurt them. Any damage we deal in order to catch them is permanent, so we're just gonna have to throw Pokeballs at them and hope. Oh, and speaking of Pokeballs, we're going to be pretty tight on money, so if we don't catch the Nidoran in 1 to 2 throws, it's going to be a reset. And a little bit of time later, we have our team of Nidoran and Squirtle. We can head back to Viridian Forest, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but pick up all of the items available at this point, even potions. We may not be able to use them, but we can sell them, and we might need that little bit of extra cash for more Pokeballs. Let's look at this bug catcher trainer again. The strategy for all of his Pokemon are going to be the same. We're going to use Tackle to weaken his Pokemon and then Leer to lower their defense for Squirtle to knock it out. However, we really need Squirtle to gain all of the experience points from these fights so we're going to keep using Leer until our Nidoran faints. Then we use Squirtle to deal the final blow, and Squirtle's going to get 100% of the experience. We're going to do this for all of the battles in Viridian Forest because we want Squirtle to be as strong as possible. Squirtle is going to be our workhorse for the beginning of the game since all of the wild Pokemon are super low leveled until we get to Cerulean, honestly. So we get through Viridian Forest, and I'm not going to show all the battles because it really is uneventful. I did fight all of the trainers in Viridian Forest though because we need Squirtle to get as much experience as possible. Once we're done with the final battle, Squirtle is at level 10 and knows Bubble. We are a little bit underleveled for Brock, but knowing a super effective special move will definitely make the fight possible, so let's just jump to that. Now for Brock, not only do we have to win this battle, but we need to win it without taking damage. I got lucky and it happened on my first try, but essentially both of his Pokemon will go down in 2 hits with Bubble. For Geodude, we just wanted to use Defense Curl one time, and Onix can use either Bide or Screech. Bide is preferable though because Onix outspeeds us, so it will get the chance to use 2 moves, and Bide lasts either 2 or 3 turns before it does damage back. Our Bubble knocked out Onix in 2 turns, but it may have been a range, so it could possibly take 3. Either way, there's many avenues to get through this fight without taking damage, so although you may need to reset a time or 2, the luck factor isn't too crazy on this one. The real roadblock of this episode though isn't Brock at all, but the gauntlet of trainers we have to go through to get to Mount Moon. It's not that the trainers have incredible Pokemon or anything, but we still only have access to Pokemon that are level 5 and lower, and the trainers in Route 3 have a bit of a level jump. We will get access to some new Pokemon on the other side of Route 3, but we have 4 mandatory battles to go through before we can gain access to them. Right now our team is 5 fainted Nidoran and Squirtles, so we have to fix that first by catching 5 more Nidoran, and now we can see how the first bug catcher battle is gonna go. This bug catcher has 2 level 10 Caterpies and a level 10 Weedle. We are going to need some luck here because Caterpie's tackle does considerable damage to our Nidoran. I wanted to see how much Nidoran's tackles do, and it's not much, so we have to switch to the Leer strategy. Caterpie takes down 2 of our Nidoran before we send out our Squirtle, and we didn't get enough Leers to make it a one-shot, so we need a Caterpie to use String Shot twice in a row so we can knock it out. Now we're on to Weedle, and Weedle doesn't know Tackle, it knows Poison Sting, and Nidoran does a much better job against it since it can resist Poison Sting. We were able to get our 6 Leers off and hit with a few tackles before Nidoran fainted, and Squirtle is easily able to knock it out since it was at yellow health. The bug catcher has one last Pokemon, and unfortunately it's another Caterpie. We needed some luck here again, as our Nidoran can only take 2 tackles before fainting, so in order to get some Leers in, we need Caterpie to use String Shot. Once our last 2 Nidorans faint, we send out Squirtle, and even with 5 Leers, Caterpie still wasn't a one-shot. We got lucky and it used String Shots, so we were able to knock it out with 1 more tackle. So we did win the battle, but we lost our whole team again. We need to fill out our team again, but the issue now is money. Brock gave us some, and the one trainer battle we won gave us a little, but this is why we need to be very conservative with how many Pokeballs we're using so we can save money. I stop at the Pokemart and sell off any of the extra items I have, including the TM for Bide, which gives us enough money to catch a new team. I caught 2 extra Nidoran this time since I was already there, and we can check out the next battle, which is a junior trainer and probably the hardest trainer of this group. The reason it's so difficult is because his level 11 Rattata can one-shot our Nidoran, and it also knows Quick Attack, so there's a chance that even if we did survive one shot, it'll use Quick Attack to knock us out before we can even use a move. After a few attempts using the Nidoran strategy, I tried seeing how it would work if we just used Squirtle, and that didn't go well either. It's just too fast for us, and Bubble doesn't do enough damage to knock it out quickly. I went back to Viridian Forest for a second because I realized that Squirtle was literally 1 battle away from leveling up, but I couldn't really come up with a better strategy for this Rattata. Looking back, maybe catching a Pidgey and using Sand Attack would have increased the chances of us landing some Leers with Nidoran, but eventually I just got decent luck where Rattata used Tail Whip enough for Nidoran to land some Leers, and when I sent out Squirtle we got lucky again and it used Tail Whip so we could knock it out. My backup plan was to level up Squirtle enough for it to evolve by grinding on Kakuna and Metapod in Viridian Forest, so we weren't totally out of options. The junior trainer uses EKANS next, and although it's not as bad as Rattata, it's slightly more annoying than Weedle because it knows Wrap, but it also knows Leer and Poison Sting, so with some luck, we can get enough Leers in with our Nidoran for Squirtle to be able to knock it out. We did lose our whole team again, but I caught 2 extra Nidoran last time, and that will be enough for us to get through the rest of the trainers. The next trainers have more of the same, but Squirtle learned Water Gun at level 15, and both trainers have Metapod or Kakuna which don't attack, so the last couple Nidorans and Squirtle knowing a better move make them much easier to handle. And at this point, we can use whatever moves we want with Squirtle, and I'll explain why in just a second. Once we're done with the trainers, Squirtle hit level 16 and evolved into War Turtle, which is definitely a must. Now we can finally catch some better Pokemon in this patch of grass right here. This grass has Pidgey that are levels 6 to 8, Spearow, and Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff is the key here, and we're going to want 2 of those, and they're a huge pain to catch. They only have a 10% encounter rate, which is already pretty low, but catching them without weakening them is extremely difficult. There was a ton of resets at this point, but I did end up catching 2 and both were at level 5. I didn't realize that level 7 Jigglypuff were possible. I would have probably gotten at least 1 at that level, but this is good enough and I round off the team with level 7 or 8 Pidgey. There's a Pokemon Center right before Mount Moon, so we can drop off the fainted Nidoran and pick up our new team. We have Wartortle, 3 Pidgey, and 2 Jigglypuffs as we head into Mount Moon. Mount Moon isn't too difficult in terms of trainer fights, but there's a few things we're going to want to do here. I put Wartortle first in the party and we pick up the TM for Water Gun. This allows us to use Water Gun freely since we can replace it with a different move and then teach Water Gun again via TM for more power points. With Wartortle first in the party, we can take out any Geodude that pops up with Bubble since we have little to no use for that move anymore, so it's just free experience points. There's a rare candy we're going to want to pick up and save for the end of the game, and we're also going to want to pick up the TM for Mega Punch. Wartortle can learn Mega Punch, which we're going to need in a little bit. We're also going to fight this hiker for more free experience since we can easily one-shot all of his Pokemon since they're all rock type. After that battle, we're going to want to pick up this Moonstone right here and then continue on. There's only 2 mandatory battles in all of Mount Moon, and the first is against a Rocket Grunt, and there's not much to this fight. We just use Sand Attack with Pidgey and Wartortle will have no issue wiping out his team. There's one more hidden Moonstone here and we're going to want to use it to evolve our Jigglypuff into Wigglytuff. It's still only level 5, but this will at least give it a little bit of a stat boost to survive taking some hits. The last battle in Mount Moon is a Super Nerd, and this is where Wigglytuff comes in handy. Expect a few resets here as we need decent luck for Sing to hit and put his Pokemon to sleep without Wigglytuff taking too much damage. The strategy here is to use Sing and then switch to Wartortle for the knockout. If you're super concerned, you can put them to sleep and then switch to Pidgey for Sand Attack while it's asleep. Either way, the goal is to have Wartortle take as little damage as possible because we have a rival fight coming up and we need Wartortle as healthy as possible. Once we get to Cerulean, we really only have 2 options to move forward. We either fight the rival or we fight the gym. The gym isn't really an option with our current team, so we're gonna have to go with the rival. The scariest Pokemon he has right now, I would say, is PIDGEOTTO. The strategy here is to put it to sleep and switch to Wartortle. It might take a couple resets to get the RNG right, but once it's put to sleep, just switch to Wartortle and knock it out. Next is Abra, and Abra doesn't attack, so I switch to Wigglytuff and then to Pidgey so we can level them up just a little so hopefully they can take an extra hit for us later on. After Abra, the rival uses Rattata and we switch back to Wigglytuff. This Rattata knows 3 attacking moves as well as Tail Whip, so there's only a 25% chance that it's going to use Tail Whip and give us the opportunity to use Sing. Once that happens, we can switch to Wartortle and a couple of Water Guns will take care of it. Lastly, we have Bulbasaur. For Bulbasaur, we're going to want to use the Sing strategy again. Bulbasaur likes to lead off with Leech Seed, so that gives us an opportunity to put it to sleep, and I thought about switching to Pidgey, but decided to just go for it with Wartortle. Mega Punch does just about half damage, and Bulbasaur stays asleep. We miss a few Mega Punches in a row since it has pretty low accuracy, but Bulbasaur never wakes up and we land a critical hit for the win. And with the rival down, that's going to do it for episode 1. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe as I'll be continuing this challenge weekly. It's taken a decent amount of luck up until this point since the game doesn't offer us too many options, but that is going to change shortly and we're going to have to get pretty creative at times to get through the game. So I will see you guys next week for episode 2. Peace!